It's definitely got its own culture, very embedded in the history.
When she opened her eyes and said, why? Like, actually, that people are being trained to stay in welfare.
To flip that on its head, and you actually had more people competing for a smaller workforce.
Welcome to Montana Whiskey, Wealth and Freedom.
Well, I've been in love, I've been on the ground, I've gotten back on my feet, just to fall back down on my knees for you and your whiskey under the bridge.
Yeah, I have one question, because sometimes we have investors that want access to capital, but in the real estate world, we'll say, the property they want the capital on to be able to purchase is not financeable by a typical lending institution. So they'll use a hard money lender. So I think for those people that have to look at alternative forms of lending or are willing to look at alternative forms of lending, I think this makes a lot of sense. And would some IBC people then end up being hard money lenders?
We do that all the time. I've been a hard money lender for some real estate ventures, and we've got clients all over the place, all over the nation that are syndicating real estate, that are, we have a ton of real estate clients who love helping the guy who's beating the street, right? Like, he's got to find the money because he's being, oftentimes they're hitting the pavement and knocking the doors because they're trying to get started in real estate or whatever. They're trying to get their first 30 doors and they need capital. Who's going to be their silent partner? Someone with access to capital, someone with an infinite banking policy. And so we've got people who they look for opportunities like that, where it's like, who's the guy that I would want to be partnered with that's out there doing the work, but I can finance.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things about infinite banking that's so cool, just the simple fact that I have a policy that is growing and compounding and all these wonderful things, and I can grab it anytime I need to buy a car, or if it's big enough, I need to buy a house, or whatever it happens, I need to send the kids to college. However, you are going to make yourself significantly wealthier if you realize you have access to capital and you can use that to lend to somebody else in a way that now, but again, then so it's interesting. All of those opportunities become like, you could be an IBC person for 30 years, but you know, you're only still taking care of your own needs, or you can end up using it ultimately
100%
to become wealthy.
Yep. And that's dependent on the different people, and why I maintain relationships with all my clients, because they're like, people ask me, what do you do? And I say, I look for opportunity.
Right.
Now I own 3 businesses. My partner owns 7 and my other one owns 40.
Right.
So, and all of them have a ton of real estate as well. So how do we look for opportunities to deploy capital to help someone else win while also creating passive cash flow for us?
Correct.
It's a huge reason. Like, when we talk about bankers in the banking equation, there's a depositor, an owner, and a borrower. If I own a banking system and that money is not being deployed, there's a problem with that, right? And you can be a risk-averse banker and just sit there and say, I'm just going to deploy capital on my next house, on my next health bill, on my next car, whatever it might be, and keep it really self-focused. Or you could take that and go add to the marketplace. And that's where the really successful come into play. And
Kellyanne particularly, well, actually, Kyle, this will apply to you as well, since you have a parcel of young kids too. I just saw an interview with a guy that wrote a book about like the shifting labor market because of AI, and like how there's this ongoing conversation around the advent of, or this is the push for universal basic income, because so many jobs are going to be lost, and so people are going to become actually more dependent on the system. Hold on, because. But this guy's book was talking about that from a solution orientation standpoint, it's a wonderful opportunity for the younger generations, your children, to learn, to be taught how to become, once again, more entrepreneurial,
Resilient.
100%.
and resilient, and using effective tools like the infinite banking policies or concept to be able to position themselves so that no matter what happens with artificial intelligence in the future, they're not thinking the same old way school of thinking, the conventional way of thinking. They're not thinking, I have to go to college, I have to get my engineering job or whatever, and and I'll be set for the next 30 years and then get my retirement pension plan or whatever. These kids are not thinking that way.
Good.
So
Let's go.
but they need something to replace that, right? So this is a golden position opportunity to say, for these young kids, start training them to start thinking independently, and one of the best ways so we have had an increasing the process has been this evolving centralization of the banking system, where we've had more and more of the local smaller banks going by the way of the dodo bird, right? And the banking's become more and more centralized and controlled. And the key is, how do we reverse that trend? How do we decentralize the banking system? There's no better way to decentralize the banking system than to have individuals set up as their own individual bank, right?
And be able to do that lending function
local
for
banks are
people.
great. Credit unions are great. They're all wonderful, and we need more of them.
But they're going the opposite direction.
But
Less.
there is nothing probably more potent and more powerful than the opportunity for the individual. Have you ever heard of the term subsidiarity?
I don't think so.
So subsidiarity, have you? You have.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the concept subsidiarity is about that. Basically, anytime that there's a problem, the best way to resolve it is at the most local level that there is. Right? It's local control, local resolve. I think it actually ties back to Moses, to the concept of Moses, but the
You can't get more local.
You can't get more local than than the individual and their own family, right? So, what is the instrument or the tool or the vehicle that needs to be further educated upon and developed and deployed in the public sphere in order to go that direction to counter what's going to happen in the future with the artificial intelligence movement if we do have people that become displaced? Just understand right now, position yourself in a way where you don't become displaced, because you take that ownership and that control back, not just of your bank or your banking function, but your own freaking life.
That's what my dad always says. Don't be a sheep.
100%.
Be a sheep. I think, honestly, education in schools at a younger age, financial education is great. I don't know that I trust that the education system today would be the best.
There you go.
Yeah.
They want to keep
teacher
the kids on the plantation.
Yes. So I was really impressed. Actually, my children, Butte Silver Bow County, actually the whole county qualifies for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And some of the books they got were fantastic. One of it was called Spend It. And it was about a little bunny who had a certain amount of carrots and he wanted to buy all these things, but he only has so many carrots, so what's he going to buy? So it was just this cute little story, right? That kind of starts it. And then there was another book. This wasn't part of the Imagination Library, but it was given to my girls. And I was told it is a reading requirement in the 2nd grade in North Carolina. That's where my dad lives. And it talks kind of all about money, and some of it's historical, right? And like cutesy little like kid facts, but it's written by a Black woman, and I was just really impressed at sort of the level that they were giving this information to children in a way that they could understand. And my kids were like reading it before bed, and they'd be like, "Did you know blah, blah, blah?"
I don't know.
I didn't.
That's great.
I don't know which one of you two is going to write the book, but I just had a vision for a book that's going to be written called Collateralized Carrots.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So did we answer your question? Did your question get answered?
I think so. He's a hard money lender.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that the question you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who are. You said something in that about financial education should happen at a younger age. I think the mindset that we have towards money is so screwy.
So screwy.
And I don't trust our system to teach us because everything else they've taught us has turned out to be wrong.
Right.
Not everything, but like enough to where I wouldn't trust that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've gone back and forth on this is it valuable to add a really healthy financial education to the kids in school? And on one hand, I feel like yes. But on the other hand, it's like if it gets twisted, then they're going to come out of school feeling like they know everything. And that's the hardest thing. That's the first thing that Nelson talks about in Becoming Your Own Banker is the arrival syndrome. If you feel like you know everything that there is to know about a certain thing, then we won't be open-minded. And what Einstein said is imagination is more important than logic.
Right.
Like if we are stuck in a logic that we have been trained on or been given, then how do we actually start to think about the future in another way? And like you said, I don't remember who was saying what, but opportunity finds cash. And our kids, their ability to capitalize on whatever the future holds with AI and everything is going to be dependent on their character, their work ethic, and their access to capital.
Well, and it's funny because when you said that, like to me, when I have a program called Cash and Liability Mastery, and I can take it to any, if I go to a middle school or a high school or a college or whatever, I can tailor it. But one of the important ones is mindset. If you grew up with the money as the root of all evil, like, okay, let's figure out how to get rid of that because you will always repel money. You will always figure out a way to not ever actually have any because somehow then that will make you evil, right? Mm-hmm. And so the mindset component, but the other thing is I always start my programs. If what you thought to be true turned out not to be true, when would you want to know? Mm-hmm. And so we all have our knowledge box, what we know. And anytime something falls out of that, I should max out my 401k. I should throw extra to my mortgage every dollar I possibly can, even though I have nothing else or I have $30,000 in credit card debt. I should still be paying it, whatever it happens to be. Okay, if that's your box and something lies out here, you can ignore it and stay status quo, but you aren't very happy there, or you need to expand your box. And so how do we actually help people to, and I'm with you, like, honestly, if you started with everybody's going to get the same education, I mean, that's why we're in the place we are, because all of the people, like the 401k managers, are, of course, telling everybody to max out their 401k, and apparently they have an amazing amount of ad dollars.
Right?
An amazing amount of ad dollars.
Well, yeah, and that's why it's a new frontier, because not everybody's going to seek the unclaimed frontier, right? Like
which ties into the next segment of
the freedom implication. But so, and this is pretty much for the table. But as far as the freedom implication goes, when somebody controls both flow and access of their money, what does that unlock in their life that most people never experience?
Autonomy.
Freedom.
You want to elaborate at all?
Sure. I think if you control your cash flow and you have a good understanding of your money coming in, how it's being utilized, where it's going, you've stopped any of the leakage in that system, potentially, I'm kind of referring to the all-in-one over here. And then if you control the access to capital, I mean, I'm not trying to sound power hungry, but like that is also very powerful, especially probably in this next generation, because it's going to get harder and harder and tighter. But if for our kids, they don't have to depend on an outside lending institution in order to make big things happen in their life, go to college, a gap year, traveling, or, buying a house, any number of things. If we control access for them, for other people who we know are capable or we believe in, that will make us all money. I mean, I think that's great. I think the less reliance we can have on some of the big name institutions, the better.
I agree with that. And it's not about not using them. It's about not being reliant on them.
Yeah.
I'm
Amen.
totally fine leveraging big name stuff. It's fine with me.
Give me an example, please.
Let's just use Chase Morgan, the bank, or Wells Fargo, or any of that stuff. I'll leverage their money as much as I possibly can, even if I have a ton of money in my infinite banking policy. If it makes sense to leverage other people's money in that arena, then I will.
Yeah, I'm a person who pays off my credit card every single month, but you can bet if I can charge it, I am, because I want my mileage and I want my free this
right.
and I want
Why
my
not?
free this without ever actually paying.
Yeah.
And again, that's always a funny thing with all the when people, I'm like, charge everything and pay it at the end of the month. So you put in all your money in the beginning, it's held your mortgage down the whole entire time, and then you go ahead and pay your bill, so you never owe any interest on that, but you've gotten to have your money be working for you double time.
But what you were saying basically describes trust fund kids, right?
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, I know, isn't it?
It's kind of
But
true.
as long as we build the character, that's what I
Right.
was saying, is the character and work ethic are essential. It's not just the access to capital. And so, like, how different is the change of AI versus the change from nothing to internet, and the change of horse to car,
Right.
and the change of candle to gas lamp, of the industrial age. We're not living in any new era. It's a recycled era from the past. It just looks different.
But the cool thing is, like, especially, I mean, even if you start them small, like, that is where legacy
Completely.
comes in, of teaching them. Like, my 5-year-old, I don't know, 5, that might be a little early, but my 12-year-old wants an Xbox. Well, I'm going to loan you the money for the Xbox. These are going to be the terms. Do you want to accept them?
Yeah.
Do you want to negotiate your terms? Do you want to come up with a way, and all of a sudden teach them the value of money? I mean, my
And their
parents,
word, if they're going to sign on that document.
yeah,
And
God
they
love
don't-
my parents, because even like they would do the whole, we're going to set up terms, and then I would be diligent, man, and I would pay all those terms, and then I was the youngest, so they love me most. Shh. But I would give a certain amount through, and they'd be like, it's okay. Like, we would have gifted it to you, but we wanted you to learn the lesson that you needed to budget and do all those things that were important. Like, that's where you teach. That's where you keep them from just becoming the trust fund useless kids who.
Yeah,
not say
because if
everybody on
you
trust
say,
fund is useless,
I'll
but-
lend you $500, here is the options. Xbox, which you can enjoy and make nothing on, unless you know how to market yourself as a, YouTuber or whatever. I don't know that world. Or you take $500, you get everything for a lemonade stand. Like, suddenly
Right.
we're looking at a liability versus an asset.
Right.
And what could you do if you had to pay this loan back in 6 months, and it was $500 for an Xbox or $500 for a lemonade stand? Which one puts you in better position?
Right.
Right. So those are the things that we can use to educate our kids at a young age that costs them something. They
Yes.
feel it. And that's really important to help that next generation.
Can you imagine how horrible it'll be to set up, honestly, an infinite banking policy for somebody, like a life insurance policy for somebody, and then at 18 you turn it over to them with never actually having taught them?
No.
Like, that would be disastrous.
They
Setting
make
them up
movies
to
about
fail.
that stuff.
Yeah. Tales from rehab.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with our attitudes towards money. I was
Going
always
back to
taught,
mindset.
yes, that
Yes.
you can't talk about religion, politics, or money at the dinner table. But how are you going to share that knowledge?
Right.
With your loved ones,
Right.
with the people that you want to see succeed and benefit from it.
The audience wants to know.
I'm going to say my first one.
But
Million
It
acre?
goes
Million
down
acre?
the easiest for
It
sure.
does.
it's definitely the most smooth.
That is a dangerous bottle of
Yeah.
whiskey.
I mean, that is their high end.
Very nice.
The high end one. And I love you, Kellyanne. So I started you
I know,
with that
that's-
high end stuff. That
Well, thank you for playing our reindeer games.
Yes.
Yeah. So the last segment is called If You Do Nothing, Here's What Happens. So, Kellyanne, in your opinion, what happens if someone never optimizes their cash flow and just lets money pass through traditional accounts? Going full circle back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity potentially if they're looking to get something more out of what they own and the money that they have.
The opportunities specifically being the
ability to get out of debt faster, if that's what they want to do. The ability to have, as she mentioned, I had previously had a HELOC. And so the HELOC did for us what we wanted it to do, but in such a less flexible way. So you can utilize the both, right? Like pay down your mortgage faster. And then you also have this access to your equity that you can use without needing to go through hoops and hurdles and more fees and closing costs of other lenders, for essentially the same idea, right? Like we used our HELOC to purchase something. We're going to use capital from our, equity out of our all-in-one to renovate our basement, which then I was already like thinking down the road. Cause then I'm like, okay, well, what if we pay our balance off? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Then what? Well, if we look at our next all-in-one
you don't need it next. It's 30 years.
Well, and that's the nice thing.
At the end of 30 years, if you actually,
or if we ever wanted to refinance, now we've used that money.
Right.
That's ours.
Right.
Anyway, the equity in our home to improve our home, which is now going to price for higher. Right. We just kind of got free money.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the whiskey talking.
Well, I guess you have to be really careful whenever you say free anything.
I know, right? I don't believe in anything free, but
in a better way, a more efficient way,
or
a more efficient way that's ultimately putting you in a best position, which is the whole thing. How do you manage your wealth in the way that makes you the wealthiest?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what we're all talking about. Mm-hmm. How do you decide to manage what you have in a way that makes you the wealthiest?
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did take a finance class in high school. I went to Catholic all-girls prep school. And I don't even remember what the name of the class was, but the whole premise was it was actually a religious class. It was counted for a religion credit. And it was how to become wealthy so you can become a philanthropist and donate back, to the church, essentially. But I would love to be a philanthropist.
Right? I know that's ultimately the goal.
To have so much that I just get to decide where to give it.
So this is the world of the flywheel. There was a recent article that came out that I just loved that was about the flywheel of wealth. Income improves cash flow. Duh. Cash flow increases liquidity. Liquidity creates opportunity. Opportunity creates assets. Assets create income. The cycle accelerates. And I love that because again, that is ultimately at the heart of that is like, if you're doing nothing and paying no attention because you're just cake and circuses person who's just whatever, I don't know, I'm going to live the next 100 years of my life and then I'm going to die and whatever. Or you're actually intentionally living and you're actually intentionally.
I think there's quite a few people who are fine to kind of keep their heads in the sand and just do the path of least resistance, I will say. If they don't have to learn something new, if they don't have to spend time on something new or do things outside of the box, they will just keep.
What's the percentage?
I got that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Cool.
I forget the quote. I forget who said it. There's 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think they think, and 85% of people would rather die than think.
Oh man, that's depressing.
That doesn't add to 100, right?
So we talked
it does.
about the fact
that is the whiskey talking, Kellyanne.
5 plus 10 is 15. 15 plus 85. Yeah.
We have talked about the fact that honestly for this show, who are our pioneers, who are the people who want to get on the wagon train and choose to take responsibility for their lives, I bet it a whole lot higher than just 15%. Holy cow.
It's
That's gonna be
Buckminster Fuller
depressing.
said that. Buckminster Fuller. So
I'm gonna believe in America we're a lot better than that, because I think at least 50% of people want to take charge of their wealth. I do.
50?
I hope 50. I want to hope 50.
that's a hope.
They're cringing.
That's a hope, because how different is it? Because
I'm an
we
optimist.
pay. How much do we pay as employers? How much do we pay our employees to just take care of their lifestyle? And we give them the systems that allows them to live a life that is just not rebelling.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I was very young, one of my first jobs out of college, I will always, always, always love this man. And I'll just throw a shout out, Michael Peruca Law. When he, it doesn't even exist anymore because that got absorbed. I just feel the need to throw that out, because he brought me in for my annual review and talked about the raise he was giving me that he knew didn't feel like as much as I felt like I should get. And he said, I need you to know what you cost me. And he broke out, which was the first time in my life I saw as a W-2 employee what I cost my employer. So much more than what I actually see on my paycheck. And so he showed the part of the taxes he has to pay, the workman's comp he has to pay, all these different things broken down by me, one little individual, 24 years old at the time. What in the world I cost him? So his $1 an hour raise he was giving me was costing him, this part I don't remember, but let's say $2 an hour. Like, wow, holy cow. Like, so good point on that, because I mean, honestly,
And how many employees are there compared to real business owners?
I know.
Cash flowing entrepreneurs. That is the difference
He
between
employed
the
30 people just on his own little company.
Exactly.
So what is
let's-
it?
I don't know the exact number, but let's just say if you take the cash flowing healthy entrepreneurs and then the employees, what's the difference between them both? I've been both, okay? I wanted to be the employee that made it all the way up to CEO track. I just wanted to follow the path because that's easy. It's all it requires of me is showing up and being better than everybody else in my work ethic, my character, all that stuff, and thinking a little bit, but not a lot. When we talk about thinking and actually stepping out away from everything and thinking outside the box, that is not how I would define an employee. I'm not saying that employees don't.
Right.
All I'm saying is when you compare the two,
Right.
how many people are actually thinking, how many people are thinking they think, and then how many people would just rather say, I'd rather flip burgers. It's just better for me to I can't flip burgers when I go home. I'll flip burgers today. I'll go home and I'll enjoy my life. And as long as you give me enough money for a side-by-side, then I can maximize my mountain experience.
That's an interesting inverse relationship, because if you stop and think about it, my hallucination is that there are a hell of a lot more employees than there are employers. Supply and demand concept. So because there is a high supply of workers, it is harder for employers to justify paying them more wages because they're plentiful, right? Mm-hmm. And there's not enough businesses to employ them all. If you flip that on its head and you actually had more people competing for a smaller workforce, smaller competent workforce, able workforce, then you're actually, those people that are actually employing themselves are doing it at a higher opportunity level, because they're more competitive, right? They're a more competitive bargaining chip for the people that need them. So it's an interesting premise, for sure. The one thing that's interesting, I tend to kind of agree, and Kelly, and I want to hear your opinion on this, but I do tend to kind of lean or agree with Kyle on this, that you have to stop and think about our country is our largest debt or deficit expenditure is the entitlement programs that go into paying for people to live. And it's exceeded a long time ago. Over 50% of the population depends on those entitlement programs in order to pay their bills and to, survive. So if you ask the question, what's the percentage? If you've already got over 50% of the people that are dependent on the system, how many of those people, the plantation, right? Like the Star Parker's
Right.
Uncle Sam's plantation.
Amazing book.
If you think if that's true, then that's already confirmed. That's already blown your percentage out of the water, and it's going closer to confirming your percentage. But I still, prior to Kyle throwing out the 5, 10, and 85, how would you have answered that question?
Honestly, I think 1%.
1%.
1%? Wow.
That might be too small of a chunk. But I've essentially am surrounded by entrepreneurs. But I think kind of back to my, former life and nursing days, and there's only one CEO.
Yeah.
And there were 38,000 employees of the health system I worked for in Texas, which was the size of a town. It's bigger than Butte, So I thought about that. And, the way to succeed in that arena, I felt, was to keep your head down, work hard, don't make a lot of noise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not and I think that's kind of why I had a hard time with it, because if you do think somewhat out of the box, find a better, more efficient way to do something, they don't want to hear it.
No, because you're going to break the system.
Yeah. So
Okay, but hold on. For having been a W-2 person for most of my life and yet been an out-of-the-box thinker, I started my first infinite banking policy when I was a W-2 person.
We've got W-2 people
Yeah,
that
of
start their
course.
policies all the
There's
time.
nothing that says that you can't be the person who actually cares. Let's not say that we are.
true. Let's not throw the baby with the
saying
bathwater.
those people need to go. It doesn't mean just because, causation is not correlation.
Right.
So there is nothing of that. You don't need to be an entrepreneur to be a pioneer, but you at least need to say, well, I want to take control of my money. You need to take control of something. So there is that concept of it's not, I don't want to segregate people into the, oh, well, you work for wages and therefore it's not even about that. It is honestly about more of the,
Mindset?
yeah, and do you even know? Honestly, that's why I start every single program with a mindset thing of
Well, I think that's what.
even know? And that's what this show is about. Of do you even know?
But I think that's why Kyle said 5% think, 10% think they think,
Yeah.
and 85% don't want to think or don't care to think.
Yeah, they would rather die than think. And that's what Buckminster Fuller said, right? And so and just an AI search, there's one employer for 27 employees in America. One entrepreneur for 27 employees is how it says it. So that's kind of in that ratio. I don't, like you said, I stepped out of my W-2 position when I got my IBC policy. I've got plenty of clients who are doing infinite banking that they love their W-2 position. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
There's always going to be outliers, but human nature takes the easiest path. We take the path of least resistance, generally, the majority of us do. And so if that can be laid out for us and our living can be paid for, then we can just enjoy our life until we die.
Yeah.
That sounds really pleasant.
But the funny thing is, I think I don't even want to separate this out into an entrepreneur, honestly, because there are an awful lot of entrepreneurs who weirdly had some inkling, but actually put themselves in the not thinking category. Because I would say there are a lot of people who whatever.
Ignorance is bliss.
100%. Well, that's what.
This. And so this is what I do. The number of people I sit there and I look at their books and I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? But they're like, nope. Don't
Yeah.
let me
Well,
think.
so I feel like that's where it comes back to mindset and freedom.
Right.
It is a mindset. We all have a different definition of that. Some people, freedom means take care of my life so I don't have to. Other people, that means, and I would say fewer people, that means let me control my life
Right.
so that I can experience whatever I want to.
Right.
different philosophies. Not one is not right and one is not wrong.
Right.
Both are necessary.
Well, I would say so. Based on this conversation, most people are living in a system where they don't control the flow of their money and they don't control access to capital. I think that we can agree on.
100. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this whole conversation today, and thank you all of you for participating. It really is about reclaiming both of those. That's our goal. Our objective here is to give people the position, to give people the information and the knowledge they need in order to position themselves to take back control both of cash flow and capital access. So with this is kind of a little bit of a rapid fire segment. It's not really rapid, but because there's two questions. But the one thing I wanted to ask Kyle and Karen, because you guys are coming at this from different vehicles, different sides of the table, is I'm very curious. I want to know what's one myth about your strategy that people need to stop believing.
Infinite banking is investing.
That's a myth.
That's a myth. It's not true.
Expand, please.
Investing implies that you're parting with your money so that you can get returns. What we do with infinite banking is we help you capitalize a system that you own and control, because it's only from a position of being capitalized that you can invest. So rather than investing as an individual, I capitalize a banking system and then invest as a banker.
Yeah, and this might be, I can't remember if you were on the show when we had this conversation. I don't think so, but I had a funny thing where my parents wanted to cash in some stock they had. Well, they had bought it so long ago, part of their investment was stock, literal paper that they had to turn in, but the vast majority of it, because that stopped a long time ago. So this I own anything. When you're investing in the normal realm, you don't own anything, which is why they no longer send you stock certificates. You don't. You have a security entitlement. Yeah, you have a security entitlement. But back in the day, and nobody understands that they lost it. Nobody even knows that you actually don't own that stock anymore. Because when you own that stock, they sent you the paper certificate that said, I own this much stock. So that is a very interesting thing of like people like having in their own head of like, I'm investing, and they think they're owning, but you at some time you might have owned a certain percentage of that company, but you sure should have.
But that actually emboldens Kyle's position,
right?
Yeah, because
totally on that level, people don't even understand. Like that is one of those things. Overton window. Have you guys heard of that expression? The Overton window it's kind of the boil the frog slowly. Mm-hmm. So if we take people and we go, raw, crazy claim, and then we dial it back, you can move the Overton window of what people believe slowly without them ever actually even seeing it move. They think they're still living in the world. So my parents, who are 89 and 93, like, we're blown away. Why don't I get stock certificates anymore? I mean, how many years haven't they? But because of the fact that they had to dig out their old stock certificates because they're that old, they were like, well, wait a minute. Why do I only have these from the very first? Like, why didn't I always get these? Mm-hmm. Because that is one of the things that people need to understand, that in all of that investing and all the things you're doing, it's kind of this weird... Yeah, it's out there in the ether, but like you don't actually have an ownership in anything, unless again you do have an ownership in something.
When you're investing as a typical investor in the stock market, yes, I agree with you, but I do have paper shares.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's why I'm saying yours is different. I'm not saying
even within infinite banking. Like I've invested in a company, and so like there are still companies who will do.
Sure. Again,
even
you're
in
talking
today.
About being a hard money lender, you're like, hey, I need a paper share.
Right. So it's
whatever.
just
right.
It's changed.
Yes. Right.
You can have direct ownership position
Right. Yep.
in what
Right.
you invest in. You just have to know how to differentiate those
And
two
understand
things.
what you're doing.
Most
For
and most people don't.
No, they don't.
Most people are not actually.
They're pounding a
buying
lottery hammer.
stocks.
Yes.
Yes. They are buying something that doesn't even exist in the
So,
world.
what's one myth about your strategy that people need to stop believing?
Oh my God. Rate is everything. It's all about the rate. And therefore, people start chasing all kinds of things like, anything, whatever it happens to be. But like right now, we happen to be in a mortgage rates are better. So they're chasing the refi boom. And I'm going to save $100 a month. But how much you put yourself in debt for longer? You owe no cost because you rolled it into the mortgage. So you lost your equity position. Like you worsened your equity position. Like quit, just quit. I'm so tired of hearing about people bragging about their rate. Because like I said before, even a 3.5% rate mortgage over 30 years is a lot of freaking money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the only other question I have in this segment is, what's the one mistake that people make when trying to implement this? Like the infinite banking strategy concept.
Thinking way too long about everything from the paradigm that the government has taught them. Right? Because we say all the time at Create Tailwind, we have a lot of sledgehammers for paradigms because the way that we've been taught to think about money is just not true. It's just not. That's the simple fact. I'm not trying to shove it down anybody's throat. It's just not true.
You're not trying to sell something.
No, right.
This is just reality.
It's reality that, hey, if your paradigm has been working for you, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because you'd be winning, but it's not working for you. So don't process this through that mindset. You have to be willing to adopt a different mindset.
Don't you
If
think
what you thought to be true turned out
Yeah,
not to be
exactly.
true? When would you
But
want to know?
don't you think one of the problems that we're all up against is that people get handed just enough to keep their head above water
Cake and circuses?
to, it's everybody's, everybody, when people comply, they say, well, wait a minute, why isn't this, what do you mean this isn't working? Like,
Yeah, right.
I served my time. I did all the right things. I checked all the right boxes. I get to retire at, 68. I have my wonderful fixed income that allows me the ability to golf at least 4 times a week. What are you talking about?
An eye-opening book for anybody is Uncle Sam's Plantation by Star Parker, which was that she talked about the fact that her family was sold. Of course, welfare is good. And have another kid and you could get more money, and have another kid and you get more money. And when she opened her eyes and said, why? Actually, that people are being trained to stay in welfare and what that looks like in any way. Again, you are being trained to think your 401k is your best bet. You are being trained to think a 30-year mortgage is your best bet. All of these different things, go see who's actually benefiting from it. And is it really in your best interest? And her book is absolutely one of the best paradigm breakers of I think I read, okay, my boss talked to me when I was, the same year my boss talked to me, I read her book. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I think I have to cocoon for a week because my world is being blown up. And all of a sudden I'm like, what is really going on?
So what's the one mistake with your strategy?
Well, I already said right.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what led into that. Sorry.
So, as far as the one thing that somebody can do this week to move in this direction of the conversation we're talking about is we're going to offer a free 30-minute consultation for people that they can take advantage of in the description of the video. So if they want to just do a really highbrow, highbrow, that's not the right expression. The high level, right? Right. Highbrow. You have to have if you're going to do a consultation, put your pinkies out, wear your ascot, right? Yeah. No, that's not highbrow. It's just high level consultation. You can access that link in the description, and that at least takes the next step beyond this conversation. But Now we're in the part of the show where I want to circle back to Kelly Ann's new opportunity.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about what you are doing with this new opportunity you have. And okay, so I don't want to step on any toes here, but what precipitated the transition? What are you excited about the most as far as this new opportunity? What's different? Like where?
Yeah. And it won't be stepping on any toes because I certainly did not leave my previous brokerage office on bad terms. I think it really just came down to a personal understanding that the time came for me to make a change and make a move. And it's never fun to do. It's never easy to do. I ended up doing it actually mid-December, which is never a great time to take on anything. But that's when the opportunity presented itself based on things I had, listed or under contract or that had closed. This was my window of opportunity, and it can be kind of small. And I didn't feel 100% confident or safe in my decision. I felt very strongly like this was the time, this is where I'm headed. And I had the privilege of working with some very experienced agents at my previous office. But real estate has changed. It's never going to go back to the way it used to be, even if we all wanted it to. I would love that. Landlines and fax machines only.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Analog fax machines cannot be hacked, by the way. So really, we should all go back. But yes. But anyway,
trust me, we will at some point.
Yes.
We are going back.
The swing back. I think
Old's going to become new again.
Well, and like what you said about different eras, like literally the plantation area, right? Like if you keep them,
who's going to be the slaves?
the sheep, you know what I mean? The people that are willing to just, and I honestly, sometimes I'm envious of those people because my life would be a lot simpler and less complicated if I was just happy showing up, doing my job, going home, and never trying to make things better, never trying to make things change. And it's just not the way my mind works and how things work. And I loved nursing. I still do. I might go back way down the road when I don't have dependents or something like that. But I hate the healthcare system.
Right.
It's so broken. It doesn't work. And it's hard. How do you do your best job while also enduring the...
Yeah. So you serve all of Montana or beyond?
Yeah, sorry, I got away from my point.
No, you're good.
So I am licensed in Montana. I typically tell people that I'm based in Butte and I will go anywhere, but not necessarily into the next city. So I work up to Helena. I work over to Bozeman.
Okay.
I work kind of over to Missoula, but in all honesty, like Georgetown's kind of the limit there. And then Dillon.
So this is a national show. So if anybody was ever considering moving somewhere and Montana was possibly an option, what would you tell them about that a greater Butte market that would be enticing to them?
It depends on if we want them in our state.
I know. Or in our town.
Right?
So it's interesting you bring that up because now I'm part of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Montana Properties. So we are actually the number one brokerage in Montana, not just in Butte and surrounding areas. So there's fantastic agents all over that can help. And if people ever want to reach out to me, I can always connect you with someone that can help you potentially better than I am. Because you can't be a market expert in every town and city.
We'll put your contact information in the description of the video as well. So if anybody wants to connect with you, they can do it through the video. So
good. Yeah. I think Butte is inherently its own spot. It's very hard to generalize and fit national or even state statistics in with Butte. It just doesn't fit. Geographically, there's a barrier between obviously where we're at and further east and Butte, the Continental Divide. I heard at a symposium of builders in Southwest Montana even years ago. It's too much of a physical obstruction for that city to kind of encroach all the way over to Butte, which is kind of nice because Butte can maintain its own personality. It's definitely got its own culture, very embedded in the history of a blue-collar mining town.
Yeah, wonderful.
And
town.
everything that comes with it. And I say it's gritty, you know,
Yeah.
it's not that it's backwards, because it's not. I think people in Butte are very open-minded and tolerant. You know, as long as you're not infringing on somebody else's rights, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And people don't care, you know, for worse or for better, I guess you could say. So not that I mean that as a warning. I think for a lot of people that would come with a sigh of relief. But Butte's not for everybody. But I do say that if you can't have fun in Butte, it's not Butte, it's you.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yes.
No kidding.
So a lot of attention has been given to Butte around the fact that it's still an affordable place to live. It got ranked as one of the 10 best Zoom towns during COVID. We are getting more and more people from other areas of Montana that still want the authentic Montana lifestyle and experience. So people from Bozeman, before it got really overtaken, and from Missoula that are maybe priced out, or it's changed so much more than they really were wanting it to. So I like that part a lot.
That's good to hear.
And I think the people that end up in Butte share a lot of the same mentality. I don't think Butte's ever going to be a place where people can kind of change it to how it was where they came from. It's never going to happen in Butte. It's just not.
Let's hope not.
So
Try to change Montana. I'm like, stop it.
It's not going to happen in Butte.
well, so it's Berkshire Hathaway, and again, we'll have information. You'll have to provide it. Give it. Make sure you spoon feed it to me, so I don't forget to put it in the description. But we'll make sure that
I'll text it to you.
if anybody's interested in learning more about Butte and the real estate environment in Butte and the surrounding areas, they can reach out to you. Is there anything else that you would like to share about what you're doing now that you want other people to know about? I mean, again, national audience, but so we have, you know, what can we provide to the audience from a more localized regional perspective that would serve you?
You know, people can find me on social media and kind of see what we're doing. One of the reasons I'm with the office I'm with now is we're very involved with volunteering and contributing to local events and causes. And that's been a really fun thing. But I think whenever anyone nationally is thinking about real estate, they need to find someone that can understand their needs and their wants, maybe even anticipate them some, and be sure that they're going to be a good source of a source, you know, because if they're could really benefit from an all-in-one, but their agent doesn't know that it exists.
Right.
That's kind of a lost opportunity there.
I think I hear what you're saying, that if anybody wants to come to Butte to explore Butte, they should look you up to be their own personal tour guide.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like playing tourist in Butte because there is always so much.
I know.
So much history.
Cool. Well, if today's conversation sparks something for you as an audience, we invite you to go deeper. Join the Treasure community, where we continue these conversations and help people build systems that increase their financial control, resilience, and freedom. Plus, we already mentioned you can take advantage of a 30-minute free consultation through the link in the description of the video, under the video. But if you want to actually go a little bit deeper into that consultation, you can take advantage of a free 60-minute consultation if you become a Treasure community member. So I would ask people to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to get their Willie's products using the Treasure as the promo code. And most importantly, I want to thank Kyle and Kelly Ann, Kelly/Kelly Ann, for coming in today and being a part of the show. It was a really fun conversation. And yeah, does anybody have anything that they want to share before we say goodbye? You good?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is it was a good conversation.
Yeah. A little bit, probably not what you were expecting when you drove over here.
Well, and it came to mind, you said kind of intellectual, right? You had that in your tagline. And, I said that we don't often talk about these sort of things around the table. It's just, sometimes I think it is just a matter of having conversations.
Yeah.
It is, and I enjoyed the spice of this conversation. There was a lot of engagement all directions, so it was fun.
Well, I think we've been, we're not helping anybody if we don't engage at this level.
Yeah.
That anybody that listens to this conversation doesn't have a chance of at least getting curious.
Right.
Like, the goal is to make people curious. Avoiding the conversation doesn't help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive.
Keep staying super surface level isn't actually doing anything.
Yeah,
right.
Just dive in.
So let's dive into it. Get muddy. Get messy, and whatever happens. But now we're at least trying to start to help people, like, with what we have to offer. So
Very good.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now I gotta run.